Hi, welcome to Crypto Ramble. I'm Desiree. I wanted to talk about a couple topics because they're really hot right now. Bitcoin prices going up, and people are wondering if it has to do with the halving. Yes, I'm going to talk about it like everybody else, or maybe the government printing so much money, governments all around the world, and people realizing that they're just going to keep doing it. So I found this website. It's bitcoinblockhalf.com, and they have a Bitcoin block reward halving countdown timer that's 9 days, and it gives some basic information on what the block halving is. So if you don't really understand how Bitcoin and blockchains work, then I would be very surprised. If you're watching my channel, since it's so small, I would expect that you're very interested in cryptocurrencies already and you have some basic idea of how it works. If you don't know, I have a very lengthy article and a video that talks about how blockchains work, and I'll try to give a brief rundown of that. So blockchains are a series of data aligned over time and distributed. So you can program blockchains, and the way that Bitcoin is designed is that every 4 years, the inflation of the monetary supply, that is how often Bitcoin is mined by miners who provide proof of legitimate transactions being added to the blockchain. Whenever they do that, they get rewarded through mining rewards, which are actually the creation of new Bitcoin. The idea is that it simulates how you mine for gold, and so the monetary supply very, very slowly increases over time. The issue that we're having with the government today is that as they're printing more money, and many governments around the world have done this, then they artificially inflate the monetary supply. And you can compare that with gold, where you actually have to put in work to get gold, which is valuable because it's so scarce. So this idea of the price possibly going up because of the halving coming up is that if you reduce the creation of the money supply, that is, you make the monetary supply more scarce, then if the demand for the monetary supply is still the same or it goes higher in the future, then it's going to cost more. So as you know, supply and demand, prices tell you whether or not the demand is there. If I want to buy a calculator, and there's a calculator on my desk, and there are only 10 calculator manufacturers in the world, and for some reason they can't get the materials to build the calculators, and it's going to be harder to get, so they have to make it harder for someone to get it from them because they can't just give it away when there's so much demand, and so the price goes up. Another example I think is great is if I have some skill that I have and my time is valuable, the more I become known, the more I can charge for it. So if the product that people want, and in this case it would be Bitcoin, is more scarce, then the price is going to go up. And a lot of, when there's an economic disaster, people call it price gouging, but prices reflect supply and demand, and you probably know that already if you watch this channel. So that's the idea behind people thinking that the price might go up. However, there are different hypotheses about markets, which I don't want to get into because I don't think it's necessary for you to understand what's going on. And some people think that that information is already priced into the price of Bitcoin. And then some people think that, no, we're going to see after the fact, after the mining rewards go down and inflation goes down, we're going to see the price respond as the demand stays the same. So this website is super useful because it gives you a lot of statistics about the current inflation rate. Where is it? Here it is. Total Bitcoins in circulation, 18 million total Bitcoins to ever be produced. It will stop at 21 million in the future. And the percentage of total Bitcoins that have already been mined is at 87.42%, so a lot. And then the total Bitcoins left to mine is 2 million. So the total Bitcoins left to be mined until the next block half is 17 million. And something to keep in mind is that the Bitcoin blockchain and all blockchains, well, I actually don't know if all blockchains, but most blockchains, a block is mined at specific intervals in time. So even if there aren't a lot of transactions, a block is going to be mined at these specific intervals, and you can kind of know how much Bitcoin is going to be created because it's so steady over time. So you can guess at what point Bitcoin's market cap, or its total amount in circulation, is going to hit the highest amount that there will ever be, which is 21 million. And this is very important because the way our fiat money works nowadays is that you can't use it as a store of value, and especially with everything happening with the crisis right now and people asking their governments to bail them out, businesses and people. I get it, it's a natural thing to ask for, but it means that the people who don't get that, they're having their value that they've stored away in money be reduced, and that's kind of not cool. It's unfair, it's rigged, and we have no control because we pay taxes and we live together, and we've all collectively decided that this is the kind of government that we want. The people who think like me or who are like kind of libertarian, they're in the minority, and like you have to understand that this society that we have created, it's just created by people. It's not just some like overarching government that's evil and like separate. No, they have families, and like there's a 6 degrees of separation between everyone on the planet. So this is what humans have collectively come up with. That's what we have for now, and so we're going to have to deal with that. Like that's how it is today. However, Bitcoin potentially, I mentioned this in one of my last videos, due to this crisis, people might flock to it because they realize that it can actually be a secure store of value. It cannot be manipulated, and the inflation is going to decrease steadily for the next 4 years, and it can be predicted. The Bitcoin inflation rate per annum right now is 3.84%, and that's about to halve down to 1.8% at the next block halving event, which is in 9 days. So I kind of rambled around explaining it, but that is what it means when people talk about the Bitcoin halving, and it's kind of exciting. I don't think I could really not talk about it if I was going to make a video anytime soon. So that's what it is, and I don't know, I have no opinion on whether or not the price already reflects the halving coming up. I expect over time we're going to see if Bitcoin is popular, and I do think it's going to become more popular I think it's going to become more popular because of what's happening with all the fiat currencies around the world and how governments are rushing to help people. I did an interview that was just recently released with Joel Valenzuela, who's a fan of Dash, and we were talking about proof of work versus proof of stake. We really got into detail about it, and one of the things we talked about was how inflation and mining and the inflation rewards, that is the mining rewards going down for Bitcoin miners in the future, might disincentivize them from securing the blockchain. That's just one of the things we talked about. If you're really into that, you know, like technical, it's not really technical, but profound in terms of philosophically profound in terms of the technology discussion on blockchain consensus mechanisms, you might find that interesting. I'm going to put a link to that, and also to how blockchains work if you wanted to understand a bit more than just looking at the basic economics of supply and demand. So if you didn't know, Bitcoin halving is coming up, and it's happening in 9 days. Everybody's talking about it on Twitter, online, and we're going to keep seeing news about it. And just in case you didn't understand, maybe hopefully now you do. Just one more thing I wanted to mention, because it was supposed to be multiple topics, that to me is looming in the background very scarily, is that China has been rolling out a pilot program for their digital currency. They've had this in the works since last year. I think in the summer it was announced, and I had mentioned it at some point. I think on Naomi's channel we spoke about it a bit, and they finally have a pilot program in 4 cities, including Shenzhen, Suzhou, Chengdu, and I can't pronounce that, in the outskirts of Beijing. So I think that this is a quiet thing going on, and China is a very, very different country from most of the world. However, I do think that the appeal of digital currencies to governments around the world and centralized states is going to be extremely high, especially because of what's happening right now with them devaluing and debasing their currencies. And if people start looking towards digital currencies, they're going to try and stop that and shut it down, and possibly introduce this new thing that hasn't been inflated yet but is going to be manipulated by them. That's a conspiracy theory. It's just an idea, and I don't think it's very far-fetched, and I think that what China is doing is just going to be an example for a lot of countries around the world. So I think we should keep note of that. They're doing it. And this news was from April 23rd, so pretty recent that they started this pilot program. Thank you for watching. If you like my channel, please subscribe, and definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.